Today we will do EPF and Miscellaneous Provision Act. Okay, EPF means Employees Provident Fund, and some other schemes are also there along with that. Those things. Now, Provident Fund, so you know, like those who are working in a company, they are having this Provident Fund scheme and all. Some contribution employers do, some contributions the employees do. So both the contributions are going towards that scheme, so that after our retirement we can withdraw money from there, or else after 5 years or after completion of our job we can take money, or there are some emergency situation also we can withdraw the money from there. Now let me see, some schemes are there which are framed by central government. Central government. Now see, in this chapter you will see they have sorry, in this chapter they have explained three schemes. First is Employees Provident Fund Scheme 1952. Provident Fund Scheme means this is actually we are having in our companies all. Here what happens, both employers and employees contribute towards this fund. Minimum 10% of wages contribution will be, maximum up to 12% of wages they can contribute. Okay. So like out of 12%, some percentage is going to be contributed by the employer and some percentage is going to be contributed or deducted from the wages of the employees. Now, how much percentage the employer will contribute, that will be in their scheme only, in the company scheme. No, means there is no slab like that. But yes, maximum 12% of wages can be contributed. Got it? And also, if employers or employees contribute more than 12% of wages, then that is liable for tax. Otherwise, not. So, this is a scheme, we called it as Employees Provident Fund Scheme. This is framed by central government. Now, this is normally we are having in maximum companies, we are having Provident Fund Scheme. Now, those who are government company, you know, like you are a government employee or central government employee. So, you after your retirement, you are eligible to get pension. So, that is actually known as Employees Pension Scheme 1995. So, only in case of government job or if you are working in a government company, in such cases also only the employer is going to contribute, because if you are a government employee after retirement, whatever pension you are going to get, there is full amount is going to be contributed by your employer only, and that is 8.33% of wages is contributed by employer. That's why everyone wants government job, central government, state government, because for the pension, because they don't have to think what will happen after retirement, because government is going to give the pension to them, and that pension is coming under this employees pension scheme, where total 8.33% of wages per employees is going to be contributed by the employer towards such scheme. Like this, another scheme is there whose name is Employees Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme 1976. This scheme, only employer will contribute maximum 1% of wages. This is very much rare, but this is there. This scheme is there, Deposit Linked Insurance Scheme, where only employer will contribute, but maximum 1% of wages, not much. Okay. And it is totally controlled by the central government by notification in official gazette. Now, this is common for all government, like whatever government will decide now. Now, how the government will inform to us normal citizen? They will inform by advertising, by the notification in the official gazette. So, there is a government one book type of things. They will, if they want to change the percentage or what rules they are making, they will publish in this book, and they are going to publish in the market. And this is actually known as notification in official gazette. And this deposit linked insurance scheme, this scheme is totally controlled by central government, and they will contribute employees 1% wages, they will contribute towards this scheme. And after retirement, you are going to get from this scheme actually. And also sometimes 1/4 of such amount, like 1% of your salary, whatever it is, some amount. For example, think 1/4 is 1% of wages is, for example, 10,000. Now, 1/4 of your this, that is 10,000, whatever is coming, sometimes they will give for the administration of fund. You know, you have heard about the locker rent in a bank. If we are having locker where we keep usually keep our jewelries and confidential things, we have to give the rent for such locker in a bank. So why this rent we give? For the maintenance of the locker. Similarly, they are contributing this 1% of wages now towards the scheme. So for maintenance of such fund, sometimes they need to give 1/4 of such fund for the administration purpose. Sometimes, not always. Means after contribution of some years, they may give 1/4 of such amount just for administration purpose. Okay, this is sometimes it is needed. So these are the schemes actually framed by the central government is discussed in this chapter. Any confusion from this slide?
No, ma'am.
Now, this act means CPF and Miscellaneous Provision Act. Once applicable, na, it's a lifelong applicable. Like if your company or if you're in your industry, if you feel this, if you have applied for PF scheme, if you have filed an application for PF scheme to opt for PF scheme. So once this PF scheme become applicable for your industry or for your company, it's a lifelong applicable. So today you are starting PF scheme, suddenly in the middle you cannot stop this PF scheme. So that's why once you start this, lifetime it is applicable. This act was applicable to whole of India except Jammu and Kashmir. So EPF scheme is not applicable there in Jammu and Kashmir, because Jammu and before it was like separate, na? Jammu and Kashmir was having different government, and so their government has maybe made a separate scheme for them. So that's why this scheme is not applicable for Jammu and Kashmir before. So this act was extended to whole of, but Factories Act, Wages Act, whatever we have read, it extends to whole of India, including Jammu and Kashmir. But these schemes are specially framed by our government. So that's why though Jammu and Kashmir's government was different, maybe they have made a separate scheme for them. So this act is not extended towards them, means it's not extended to whole of India. Means Jammu, it's not applicable for Jammu and Kashmir. Others are okay. And this scheme, that means this act is applicable to the employees who are drawing their salary not exceeding 15,000 per month. Achha, there is a story. Like if an employee's salary is maximum 15,000, okay, like if the employee is getting the 15,000 in hand, then PF is applicable on them. Scheme. In case their salary exceeds 15,000, then what happens now? Employee plus employer jointly, they have to give an application to the PF commissioner. Employee plus employer together needs to give an application before this commissioner, PF commissioner, that they want to continue the PF scheme. But without permission, without anything, maximum if your salary, if you are withdrawing 15,000, without any compliance, you can go for PF. But in case if your salary exceeds 15,000 per month, then employee plus employer both jointly need to give a letter to the PF commissioner that their as their salary exceeds 15,000, still they would want to continue this PF scheme. So they need a sanction letter or approval letter from the PF commissioner as well as central government. Now, this PF scheme is applicability on factory. You know what is factory, where 20 or more persons are employed in any day in the preceding year. Next is it is also applicable on any establishment which is controlled by central government, and there also maybe 20 or more persons are employed by notification in official gazette. What does it means? Wherever the official gazette or notification in official gazette, this line you will see now. So you can understand, like central government is having right to fix. So how many members will work, and then such industry will be treated as an establishment, or such premises will be treated as an establishment. That decision is going to be taken by the central government through official gazette. So, and if any establishment which is controlled by central government, if central government wants to opt for PF fund or PF scheme, they can, it is applicable on them. Or else any other establishment which is controlled by central government, where as per central government decision, less than 20% if working, then also okay. So this is just a bookish language. You have to understand, like any establishment, if it is controlled by central government, then CG is going to fix the rules and regulation for such establishment, whatever it is. So means how the establishment means what? That means whether 20 or more % will work, then it will be treated as establishment, or less than 20 will work, then they will treat this as establishment. This is fully in the hand of central government. So you can write any establishment which is controlled by central government, this PF scheme is applicable on them. And lastly, employer and majority employees have agreed that the provisions of this act should be made applicable to their establishment, then they can submit their application to the Central Provident Fund Commission. So I already said this point is applicable when their salary will exceed rupees 15,000. So normally if the employee salary exceeds 15,000, then the employees as well as employer will jointly file an application before the Central Provident Fund Commissioner that they wants to continue with such same provision of this Provident Fund scheme, then they can continue. Got it? So applicability means this PF scheme or EPF Act is applicable on factories, any establishment controlled by central government. In case if the employee salary exceeds 15,000, then joint application needed from the employers and employees from both the sides to that they wants to continue this scheme further. So then this scheme will become applicable on them. Any question up to this? Okay. Next is non-applicability. That means this PF this act is not applicable on this three. So only the highlighted portion I can say you, cooperative societies. So first of all, you have to remember any establishment which is registered under Cooperative Societies Act, PF is not applicable. Any cooperative societies, PF is not applicable. And thirdly, if any established is controlled by central government, and if central government wants to frame different scheme for those establishment, okay, they don't want to follow PF or those deposit linked. So central government wants to frame different scheme for those government companies. Then government company will follow that scheme, not PF. Provident Fund Act. So these three cases, this PF Act is not applicable. So any type of cooperative societies, that means any establishment which is coming under Cooperative Societies Act, not applicable. Any type of cooperative societies, not applicable. Or any type of establishment which is controlled by central government, and central government wants to frame some different scheme for their establishment, then such establishment will follow as per the direction of central government. No need to follow those already this framed scheme, that is EPF and all. Now, meaning of employer, employee as well as factory, just read from their other act, whatever already we did. Okay, same definition is written here also. So just read from one notes and write everywhere. Meaning of employer, employee, and the meaning of factory as per Factories Act 1948, same. Now, this is also you need to refer Factories Act. What do you mean by occupier? You know, occupier is always there in a factory. Who is occupying the premises, we called it. And also occupying the premises. And also who is having ultimate control over the affairs of the factory. That person will be known as occupier. So better refer Factories Act. There is, I think in my notes you will get 7-8 points there in Factories Act. Read from there only. But who is occupier? Who occupy the premises and who is having ultimate control in their hand. That person only occupier. And in Factories Act there is more. If it is not possible to handle everything by the occupier alone, then occupier is also having right to appoint manager. Along with him, such person will manage the premises. Any question? Pritha and Akshay?
No, ma'am, no questions.
Now, central board, you know, in full industries, this someone should be there or some board is established by the government to make the rules for you. These rules like EPF for bonus, wages. So who make the rules? Normally in one line I can say you central government. But central government is a vast term. Someone must take the responsibility to make that work. Now that's why central government will constitute this central board. Okay. Now central board, there is a two board you will see, central board and state board. Okay. So central board is made formed or constituted by CG, central, you know, from the name itself. It is constituted by central, that is central government. And other one is there, state board. This is actually done by the state government. So central board is constituted by central government, which consists one chairman, one vice chairman, and some members. These members also having knowledge, must have some knowledge on these area like this law, administration, okay, accounts, all these. These members should have knowledge on this area, as well as the government is going to choose these people, chairman, vice chairman, members, some people from the employer side, some people from the employees side, and they will form a central board. And sometimes state government also make the state board, but state government cannot make this board alone. They need to they usually constitute the state board in consultation with the central government. So sometimes what happens, a central means, you know, they are very much busy. They are central. They have to take lot of decisions of their state, territories, districts, everything. So sometimes they don't have that time. They will delegate their power to the state that please make your own rules. So in such cases, state government cannot make rules alone. So they will consult with the central government and they will make the rules for you. in case central government delegates. So that's why state board sometimes formed by the state government as per instruction of the central government. But whatever decision they will take now for constitution of state board, the SG will do it in consultation with the central government. Now, some conditions are there. I already discussed before. Still, what are the conditions for EPF? With effect from 1/9/2014, they said wages should be maximum 15,000 per month. Then only the contribution is paid. Now, whose contribution is this? Employer's contribution. I already said key minimum 10% in case of EPF and minimum 10% of wages, maximum 12% of wages. And in this percentage, some percentage will be contributed by the employer and some percentage is going to be contributed by the employee. But this system will continue until and unless you are drawing your salary up to 15,000 per month. Once your salary exceeds 15,000, in such cases, employer will stop the contribution. Full percentage is going to deduct it from your salary. Okay. So that's why wages should be maximum 15,000 per month. Then only contribution is paid by the employer. When your salary will exceed 15,000, employer will simply stop contributing. Employer will full percentage is going to be deducted from your salary and they will send to PF fund. Afterwards, they will get from this fund only, but employer will stop contributing. Next condition is if the wages exceeds 15,000. Then though I say to continue this PF account, joint request from the employees and employer is required. In such cases, employer has to pay administrative charges. So what employer will do now? Employer will tell, I won't contribute anymore because your salary now exceeds 15,000, you can contribute your percentage towards PF. Now, for administration of this fund in this PF account, now, whatever charges are required for maintenance and administration charges, that may be paid by the employer. But main deduction will be done from the employee's wages in case their salary exceeds 15,000. And whatever EPF conditions we have discussed, this is not applicable for international workers as their slab varies. In case in your industry or in your factory, any international workers are working as a contract basis, they are coming from outside and working. For them, it is not applicable. EPF is not applicable because they will come on a contract basis, they will work for some days and they will go. So you cannot, this act is not going to be applicable on them because international means they are having different government, foreign government. So your Indian government's rules is not going to become applicable on them. These are the conditions. When now I said ki EPF means you are contributing towards PF fund. Contribution is going towards PF fund. When you can withdraw from such fund, whatever money you are contributing to such fund, when you can withdraw. First of all, within 1 year before your retirement. So whenever you will be your retirement date, just 1 year before you can apply for withdrawal from such fund. Other than this is normal case. Other than this, you can withdraw in case if you want to purchase your house. For example, you don't have house or else you are giving loans, repayment of loans, for example. So you want to buy your property and you have purchased your property and for that loan is going on. So how you will pay if you don't have money? So you will become insolvent. So no, you are having money in this fund. If you apply there, you can withdraw fund from here and you can repay the loan for special cases. And sometimes if you don't have any own house, if for dwelling your house or flat, for purchasing your flat, you can take money from that PF fund. Other than these two, you are not eligible to take fund. Before retirement, before just 1 year of your retirement, you can apply there to take your amount from your PF fund. But there are certain cases or circumstances or events that you can take advances from such fund. Advances means currently I need some money, so I will take from that fund, and whenever finally you will get, before 1 year of retirement, whenever you will finally apply for withdrawal of fund, they will deduct such money and they will pay you the leftover. So you can take advances from such fund. In case of illness, you are sick, you don't have money in your hand. For treatment, you can take advances from such PF fund. Marriages or post-matriculation education. Post-matriculation education means after 10, 12, if you have for a higher education of your children, if you want money and currently you don't have in your bank account, you can take advances from EPF fund. In case of act of God, like abnormal conditions such as flood, earthquake, suddenly you need something, you don't have money currently, so you can withdraw from PF fund. Think in your area, no electricity was there. Now you want to bring electricity because electricity is a necessity nowadays. So to bring electricity, if you need to spend some money, you can take advance from such fund. And in case of any physically handicapped, maybe your children or yours due to some reason, so you can take advances from such fund for your treatment or for medicines, etc., etc. So only these are the events. For these reasons, you are eligible to take advances from PF fund. Okay. How many types of PPF is there or employees pension scheme is there? There are many schemes are there. One is superannuation pension. Secondly, retiring pension. Thirdly, widower pension. Children and or orphan pension. Now, what is superannuation pension? Na? This is actually normal in our normal private companies. We don't have that government pension like things like after retirement, government is going to give us pension. Full contribution is from the government's part. No. Nowadays, what happens for us? We don't have such pension things. So what we do now? From now onwards, we have to think what will happen after retirement. So now there are a lot of schemes came in our companies. So we have to choose, and what we have to do, we have to deduct certain percentage or certain amount from our salary and we will send towards that fund. And as per company's policy, like that fund they are treating as a pension fund, so that after our retirement we can withdraw our money itself, whatever we have contributed throughout our whole life, that money only we will get after retirement for our living purpose. So such schemes or such pensions, whatever we are getting, it's our contribution only, not the employer's contribution like government company. That is actually coming under superannuation pension. Retiring pension means whatever we have said, government pension, 8.33%. After retirement, complete pension, you don't have to think after retirement what will happen. Full government's contribution. Government will contribute your all over your life 8.33% of your wages towards that pension scheme. And if you are a government employee, if you are a central government employee or state government employee, after your retirement, the full pension will credit in your account, and that is also from the government side. That is retiring pension. You don't have to worry about that. Widower pension. The actual pensioner is not alive, like deceased. Okay, after his death, half pension will go to his widow. Such pension, half pension, full pension will be used to get by the employer after his retirement, employee after the retirement. But in case of his death, after his death, half pension used to go to his widow, and such pension is known as widower pension. And last one will come when the orphan, like children is there, father and mother is not there. So in such cases also children is a dependent one on the father, the person who is earning, children are the dependent on him. So in case of death of both the parents, the children or orphan is eligible to get the pension of their parents for their they can spend for their education purpose or for the lifetime, and that pension is actually registered under the orphan pension. So the whose father and mother is not there, so father's and mother's pension is will go to the orphans account and to their children account, so that in their absence also, so that they can continue their life, they can study, they can take a well education, higher education, like that. So these are the types of employees pension scheme is available as per this act. Now you know, in our lifetime we change our jobs, right? Like before I was working in ABC Limited. Now I have resigned from here and I went there BCA Limited. Now I have resigned from here and I went to something. Okay, BCA Limited. So in my whole lifetime, maybe I have changed 3-4 jobs or 5-6 jobs. It's possible. Now, what happens now? In one company, whenever I was working in first company, so during that time only a PF account will be opened in my name. So whenever I will shift or I will change my job now, so this PF account will also is going to transfer from only one company to other. So only in the PF account they are going to change my organization or the employer's name. So yes, transfer of account is possible. When an employee is transferred to a new establishment, we can either transfer his PF account or withdraw his PF amount from the old establishment. So once I resign from the old job, after resignation, after whenever I am done with this company, I can withdraw the money from my PF account, full amount, or else I can transfer this account to in the name of new organization where I am shifting. So yes, transfer of PF account is very much allowed as per this act. So any confusion up to this, just ask me. Now, there are 3 important sections is there in this act. One is section 10, next is section 11 and section 12. As per EPF Act, this section 10 means in case if an employee gets insolvent, an employee became insolvent, then his provident fund amount cannot be attached. That is, without paying his provident fund amount, employer cannot pay the same to other liability. So these 3 sections will tell you how much important to contribute towards this provident fund account. Okay, contribution is so much important. This 3 section will tell you. 10 is telling if in case the employee become insolvent. What do you mean by insolvent? Unable to pay debt. Okay. In case an employee became insolvent, due to this insolvency, insolvency is the disqualification in law. In insolvency, if you become insolvent, this is one of the disqualification in law. If you become insolvent, then also employer cannot stop contributing towards your provident fund account, and they cannot do it in case if you become insolvent. First they will pay towards provident fund account, then they will pay to other liability holder. So as per 10, this is telling that even if employer becomes insolvent, then also employer cannot stop paying towards this provident fund account. Section 11 is telling just opposite. Think the employer became insolvent. That means, or else the company is going for liquidation or winding up. That means the company is not going properly, means not doing its business properly. So it is supposed to close its business. So it is just going to wind up or liquidation. It will go for liquidation. Still, if the company is going for liquidation or winding up, in case the employer becomes insolvent, then also this contribution towards provident fund is so important that first they needs to pay first towards this provident fund amount or towards this provident fund account. Then other liability they will meet. Okay. So first, in case they are going for winding up or they wants to close their business, still first they have to pay the provident fund amount or they have to contribute towards this provident fund account, then other liability. And lastly, section 12 is telling they are, as per section 12 of this act, employer cannot reduce the salary of the employees just because for the reason they are contributing towards provident fund. So if employer is telling you that no, I can't contribute towards provident fund account because I cannot give much salary to you. If employer is telling you no, I will reduce your salary because I am contributing towards the provident fund account. So this is very much wrong. You can file a case against the employer because as per section 12 it is said employer is having no right to reduce your salary as because they are contributing towards your provident fund account. Got it? So there is a very important 3 section which is telling you like how much important this contribution towards provident fund account is. Employers are eligible or employers are needs to contribute first towards provident fund account, then to other liability holder, that is creditor and others. So as per 10, in case if employee become insolvent, then also employer cannot go back and say like that you became insolvent, so we are not going to contribute towards your provident fund. This will not be done because as per 10, they have to pay first towards the provident fund account, then they will do other things. As per 11, if employers get insolvent or employer is going for winding up, then also they cannot say, oh, we are just closing our business, we can't pay towards we can't contribute towards your PF account. No. First pay towards PF for your employees, then you will pay all the debt and all. You will meet the other liabilities. And thirdly, employer never ever say to any employees that they will reduce their salary as because they are contributing towards their provident fund account. This is also illegal. As per 12, you can file a case being an employee against the employer. So under this act, this 3 section is very important. Now, in case in EPF Act, in case if there is a dispute arise between employer and employee, then first of all, to whom you will go? This person is there, Provident Fund Commissioner. This is a very much important for your MCQ. Like for any dispute related cases in this act, EPF Act, who is your authority to whom you can file an application? That is Provident Fund Commissioner. Now what you will do? There can be a lot of disputes. Disputes can be relating to the amount of contribution, due date of contribution. Maybe their employer is not contributing properly, not exact amount they are contributing, whatever they are supposed to pay. Or else due date is, they have not paid on time, employers. Or else they have not paid the administration charges or other charges. So there are a lot of dispute may arise between the employer and employees relating to such payment of contribution towards this provident fund. In case of any dispute, to whom you will go? Who is your authority? This is your authority, Provident Fund Commissioner. So employees are going to file an application before Provident Fund application and they will write this is the dispute and this is the problem we are facing. Employers are not contributing towards the PF fund on time as per act. They are not paying this, that you can complain. So before Provident Fund Commissioner, you can file. Now, this person, Provident Fund Commissioner, will check your application. After checking your application, they are going to solve your dispute. And for solve your dispute, they are going to pass an order. And such order is going to be passed by Provident Fund Commissioner under section 7A of this Act. Got it? So, in case if there is any dispute relating to contribution towards payment of contribution towards PF between employer and employee, then yes, the aggrieved person, aggrieved means the person who is not satisfied, can go to the authority. Who is your authority under this Act? Provident Fund Commissioner. To this person, you can file an application. On receipt of the application, Provident Fund Commissioner will go through this application, will try to, what is your problem, they will try to search it out and they will pass an order. Okay, what you should do, or he can give an order to the employer, please pay on time, like that. So this order is going to be passed by PF Commissioner under section 7A. Okay. Now, think under section 7A, what PF Commissioner has given you an order against the application you filed before then. Now, after receiving this order, you are feeling like you are not satisfied with this order of the PF Commissioner. You are feeling like the PF Commissioner has not properly justified your application, or PF Commissioner has not focused your problem properly. So, if you are not satisfied with this order, what you can do, if you still agreed with that order, then again you can appeal before same Provident Fund Commissioner and ask him to review. That you can ask the Provident Fund Commissioner, please once more time, please review my application because I am feeling your order is not correct. Please change your judgment or change your order, like that. You can request before the same Provident Fund Commissioner who has given you the first order under section 7A. Next, whenever you will request to that person for the review, Provident Fund Commissioner is going to review your application under section 7B. Got it? So, under section 7B, he is going to review your application. Now, think after review, he will give you an order. Now, think still you are aggrieved. Appeal is means still you are aggrieved, means still you are not satisfied with the second order also. Then yes, you can appeal to the higher authorities. Higher authorities is there, High Court. You can go to the higher authorities with this order of Provident Fund Commissioner. Got it? And under section 7C, this case, anytime you can reopen this case. Once, means for example, today you are filing this, you are receiving the order under section 7A, and after that maybe in between it is stopped completely. So yes, you will get 5 years time to reopen the same case. Okay, and that case you can reopen within 5 years under section 7C. So how you are going to remember it? For any dispute purpose, you have to think you are having only one authority, that is PF Commissioner. So, you know, whenever we are having any normal life problem, to whom you go? You will go to court. So, we actually go to, in case of normal thing, just come out from PF Act and see if you are having any dispute, any problem. Usually, we will go to district court with your case. Now, district court will look after your case and they will give the judgment or order. Now, think you are not satisfied with this order. So, with this order, again, you can go to High Court. You can appeal to High Court. Now, High Court is going to review this order, then again is going to give a new order. Now, think again you are not satisfied with this order, then finally you can go to Supreme Court. This is a normal life thing. But in case of PF problem, who is your authority? Provident Fund Commissioner. So for any dispute, you can file an application before him. Now on receipt of your application, he is going to give you order first under section 7A. Now think, you receive this order under section 7A and you are not satisfied. That means you are aggrieved. You are not satisfied with this order. Second option, what you will do? Again, you are going to ask the same PF Commissioner to review this order for review. You will request the same PF Commissioner, please review once again and change your order. And PF Commissioner is going to review your order under section 7B. Okay. After review, he will give you some order. Now think, if you are satisfied with this order, so fine, you can proceed. And then if you are still aggrieved and not satisfied with this order, then you can go to higher authority. Got it? And yes, total time period, you can reopen such case, whatever application or dispute related application you have filed before Commissioner. In between, if after getting this order, if you are aggrieved and then you have not asked this PF Commissioner for review, or else you have not appealed before any higher authority, for example, you suddenly became silent relating to this matter. But yes, total 5 years time is there as per this act to reopen this case. And this is actually under section 7C. So the under dispute, this 3 section is very important. 7A, first order by PF Commissioner. 7B, reviewed by PF Commissioner. 7C, reopen of the case. Any confusion till now? Tell me, ask me. Clear, na? So in this chapter, I'm telling you from first, like very important is this 3 dispute section, 7A, 7B, 7C. Along with that, those 3 important sections, 10, 11, 12. This 2 is very important. Now come to the final portion. Whatever rules and regulation we have discussed, if you don't follow those rules, we can say, like if you are not following those rules, obviously penalty is there. See, first is avoiding any payment and made any false statement or misrepresentation. So in case employer or employee, they are not paying towards Provident Fund, and instead of paying or contributing towards Provident Fund, they have made any false statement or misrepresentation. In such cases, your punishment is jail is maximum 1 year, fine is maximum 5,000. If there is any default in payment of employee's contribution, that means I said the employer and employee both needs to contribute towards PF fund. In case there is a default from employees, in case of payment of employee side, employee's contribution, then there is a punishment. Jail is maximum 3 years and but not less than 1 year. Minimum 1 year, maximum 3 years, and fine is maximum 10,000. In case of this is employees, this is a 1 minute. This is employers. This is employees. If there is a case of employees contribution, default in payment of employees contribution, that means employees fail to contribute towards Provident Fund account, then minimum 6 months jail, maximum 3 years, maximum fine 5,000. Previous one was employers, which was like minimum 1 year and maximum 3 years jail and 10 years fine. Next is in case of employees deposit linked insurance scheme, whatever last scheme we have discussed, framed by central government. So there what we have read under that scheme, that usually government employer only contribute 1%, sometimes 1/4 of amount paid towards the administration charges. Now, if employers fail to contribute or contravene the provision, In such cases, jail is minimum 6 months, maximum 1 year, and fine is 5,000 or both, depends on crime. Pension scheme. What is pension scheme? In the government companies, like they are eligible, the employees or retiring employees are eligible to get the pension from the government side, and government companies are eligible to contribute towards pension fund 8.33% of wages. In case the employers contravenes or fails to follow the rules and regulation, then for them imprisonment is there, maximum 1 year jail, fine is maximum 4,000 or both, depends on crime. Now, contravenes any provisions or any conditions subject to exemptions was granted. If in case of any exemptions, like, like whenever your salary will exceed 15,000, what will happen? Employer will stop contributing towards it. Only employers will contribute. And employers will contribute only the administration charges. So in such cases of any exemptions or any other further contravention, in such cases, the person who will contravene, means the person who will not follow the rules, for him, jail will be minimum 1 month, maximum 6 months, and fine maximum 5,000. Okay. So these are the penalties. So fine and penalties are not so important for you in case if you forget the exact amount or exact imprisonment years, then just manage in the answer like that. The person, the company and the officer in default, if fails or contravenes the provisions or rules and regulation of the act, will be punishable with imprisonment and fine or both. That's all.
Hello students, hope you all are well and safe. So today I want to share something. I hope the page is visible. I'm very happy to share that my first book got published on the topic business law, and I have written this book according to the syllabus of CMA Inter, BCom, MCom and for MBA aspirant. This book contains portion of commercial law, industrial law, company law, and it is completely exam specific. So what are you waiting for? Go and grab it. It is now available in Amazon, Flipkart, Notion Press, Amazon Kindle, Apple Bookstore, Google Play, as well as Kobo. And also requesting you to share with your friends so that they also get chance to have it. So thank you.